Hello and welcome to Knitting Out Loud. My name is Emily and this is my channel where I talk about all the things I have been making. Today is a little different from a normal project update because I'm going to be going through everything that I have made so far this year. So I'm talking finished objects, stash goals, project goals. I've run all the numbers and I want to take a look and see if I'm actually on track with what I set out to do this year or if I am completely delusional. My guess is a little bit of both. So grab something to work on, grab something to drink. I just cracked open a Coke Zero and let's see how this year is looking. Starting off with just a big picture overview so far for the first half of 2026, which will be January through June. I am recording this in July, but I'm not including those projects in things that I talk about today. I have finished 18 objects. I have cast on 20 projects. I currently have 5 whips on the needles and I have a total grams out, which is only finished objects. I weigh everything once it is done and that total is 3,454 grams out for the year. And then lastly, just for fun, I have my running miles on here. I'm tracking those on my knitting spreadsheet because I am making a mileage blanket to have a time capsule of all my runs so far this year. And in the first half, I ran 339 miles. I thought that it would be fun to break down all of my finished objects by category and see what that looked like. So my 18 finished objects were made up of 9 pairs of socks, 5 garments, 1 blanket, 2 accessories, and 1 cowl. I thought that I could share my favorite project from each category, and I have 2 here to show you, but the rest are either put away or have been gifted. First up is my favorite pair of socks that I have made this year, and that has to just be my Stardew Valley spring socks. I learned so much about color work and just a lot of love and effort went into these socks, and I'm really happy with the way that they turned out. I also had the yarn for these in my stash for over 2 years, so it felt really good to actually get that yarn worked up into a finished object. And then as far as garments go, my favorite garment has to be my Traveler hoodie by Andrea Mowry. This is a pattern that had been in my queue, I think, since it first came out, and I just really struggled for a long time with selecting yarn for it. But I finally found yarn this year and knit it up, and I just love it. And it has gotten a lot of wear. It's just not really getting worn right now because it's been quite warm. But that is the winner for my favorite garment this year. I'm really happy with the garments that I have made this year though, so it was tough to pick. In terms of blankets, I've only finished 1 blanket, and that was, I think, baby's favorite blanket. It has since been gifted, but it was a really cool yarn. It was a Pima cotton yarn from Purl Soho, and that was a really fun project to work up. Accessories wise, I made 2 accessories. One was a headband for my daughter, and then the second one was actually 18 individual bookmarks that I made for my daughter's first grade class. And that has to be the winner for the accessories category because it was fun to make. It was one of those projects where I was actually able to stay on track with the timing goals that I set out for myself, so nothing felt rushed. And that isn't usually the case for me when it comes to bigger projects like that are time sensitive. Usually I back myself into a corner and then I'm like really working to get it done in time. So I did not put myself in that position this year. So that was really wonderful. I used up a lot of little bits and bobs of yarn, so that felt really good to get rid of some leftovers, and then the kids just love them. So that's the winner for accessories. And then I also made 1 cowl, which was the On the Bias cowl, I believe, by La Mercerie, and I haven't worn that one a lot, but I love the color. It's a bright, like cobalt blue color, and hopefully I'll wear it more when things start to cool down a little later on in the year. Although I'm not wishing away summer because I love summer in Seattle. Just cannot be beat. It's the best. At the beginning of the year, I went through a whole goal planning process and set a few numerical goals for myself for the year. And I thought that it would be fun to review each of those and then give myself a grade depending on how I'm doing. First up is socks. So I wanted to make 6 pairs of socks this year, and so far I have made 9. So I'm going to give myself an A++ for this goal because I only want to make socks right now. I am in such a sock. There's just a loud sound outside. I'm in such a sock mood, and it's summer sock camp and sock week is in summer. So I feel like I'm probably going to make 6 more pairs of socks just this summer. We shall see. But as far as a grade, I am passing with flying colors. For garments, I have a goal of 6 garments this year, and I have made 5. Well, I've made 6. You haven't seen this yet finished, but 5 were finished in the first half of the year. So I'm also going to give myself an A in this category because I have not made a lot of garments before this year, believe it or not. This has been a big garment year for me, and I'm loving it. I wanted to make 8 projects from leftover yarn in my stash, and I have hit that goal too. I've made 8, and I want to keep that going because I am really enjoying knitting up my leftover yarn. I have quite a bit. It is perfect for socks, perfect for smaller projects, and I am feeling really motivated to work through some of that. So I'm excited to see where that goal ends up by the end of the year too. If at halfway through the year I have 8, how far can I get? Another A for me. Wow. Star student over here. And then also have a big stash finished object goal. That was 12. And I'm going to give myself like a C for this one because I only have 5 finished objects so far from my stash. So I'm almost halfway there, but that is like, I guess, what would that be? If I need to get, I'm going to give myself a B- for this one because I'm only halfway through the year and I'm almost halfway to goal. So it's not terrible, but not as good as all my other goals are going. So I'm interested to see how this one shakes out because I do feel like my motivation has shifted more towards using up my actual leftovers versus like full skein stash projects. But I'm okay with shifting that goal too. We'll see how it shakes out. And then I had also set a goal to complete 2 kits. I have a yarn dyeing kit, I have a couple crochet kits, I have a punch needle kit and an embroidery kit that I have collected over the past few years, and I haven't done a single one of them. So I'm giving myself an F in this category because I still haven't done any. And we're moving on. I think what it might be is that knitting is a source of relaxation and like stress reduction most of the time, unless I'm having a terrible time with a project. And kits feel like work. They feel like more work, and it's just because it's a skill that I either don't know how to do or I haven't learned yet. And that just takes a different type of creative energy that I feel like I want to give right now. So I'm not mad about it. They'll be there when I'm ready for them and when I'm in that sort of mood. And I do still want to work on them. I think that I just need to get one started, and then it'll be like with any project. Like the hang up for me with a project most of the time is getting it on the needles. And then once it's on the needles, we're off to the races. So I think it'll be the same with kits, but I'm not sure. My only other big goal that I should give myself a grade on is more yarn out than in. And at this point in time, I'm going to give myself a C for that goal because I haven't done it yet. I'm still digging myself out of a little bit of a hole. So let's take a closer look at each month throughout the year. Starting with January, I had 800 grams in and 458 grams out. I did make some yarn purchases in January, obviously, but several of the garments that I made at the beginning of the year did require new yarn. And if I recall, in January, I bought a bunch of yarn from Purl Soho, all the yarn that I thought that I needed for my cocoon cardigan, and maybe a few other things from Purl Soho. February is where things really started to go south. I ended up bringing in 2,900 grams of yarn and only had 315 grams out. So in February, well, January and February go hand in hand because the yarn that I purchased in January, I thought would be enough to finish the cocoon cardigan. I had gotten a contrasting color that I was only doing for a portion of that pattern, and I only bought one skein of that color. I should have gotten two at the time because I ran out very close to the end. I lost Yarn Chicken in a big way because then when I went to repurchase an additional skein of it, they were sold out in everything except for a 1,000 gram cone of that color. And me, being the impatient person that I am, went ahead and got the cone. So I brought in 1,000 grams of yarn when I really only needed about 20 to finish my project. Probably not the best decision, but I stand by it because that color ended up being sold out for a number of months afterwards. Also purchased yarn for a blanket in February and my traveler hoodie in February. So I had a lot of yarn come in that month. But since then, things have been going in a much better direction. So in March, I ended up having 300 grams in and 744 grams out. April, I brought 375 grams in and had 1,397 grams out. So that was a great month. May, I had 200 grams in and 413 grams out. And then June, 120 grams in and 126 grams out. So June wasn't so great from a yarn out perspective, but I was just about to say that I think July will be looking up, except I might have to retract that statement because Flock Fiber Festival falls in July this year and not August. So we will see how July works out, but I should have a couple projects that take up a little more yarn coming too. So maybe it'll all balance out, but if I can have another big month. Also, my mileage blanket won't be counted until the end of December. And that's going to be a lot of yarn. So I think if I can keep myself in check at Flock and then really try to reel it in with bringing more yarn into the fold, I do not need to be doing that except for Flock and then maybe an Advent. And I'd also been thinking about getting the Row 1 minis for scraps, but I don't know. I think if I can keep it under or around 100 grams max per month coming in, then I can get myself out of this deficit because right now I'm at 3,454 grams out and 4,695 grams in. So I have about a 1,200-ish gram difference that I need to make up to meet that goal. So we're going to give myself a C. C's get degrees. Now let's just go through some rapid fire favorites for the year. My favorite finished object, again, I think has to be my Stardew Valley socks because it was just a really special project to me. I feel like I learned so much making them, and I already said that earlier, so we're gonna keep this rapid fire. My most worn finished object is probably my cocoon cardigan, which I have put away for the summer. But whenever it is not summer, that has been really great to just have sitting around when I need to throw something on that looks good, feels comfy, and keeps me warm. My favorite yarn that I've worked with this year, I will go with the Pima cotton yarn from Pearl Soho that I used for the baby blanket that I made. I don't know that I would want to work with it all the time, but it was a very unique yarn and something different than anything I've worked with before. My favorite pattern that I have made so far this year, probably surprised me a little bit, was my Cloud Break tee. This is a pattern by Wool and Pine. It was contiguous sleeves, which I had never done before, and then a really satisfying lace repeat down here. This pattern surprised me a little bit and caught my eye, and this ended up being the project that I made for my birthday this year. So I will go with that. And this yarn is from Hazel Knits here in Seattle. I would also say this is a runner-up for my favorite yarn because their stitch definition is amazing. It was so much fun to work with, and I love that it has just a small amount of speckles because I really love speckled yarn. My favorite technique was, again, from the Stardew Valley socks. I learned, let's see, we'll see if, I'm not sure if this is the first sock I made or the second sock that I made, but I did the ladder back jacquard or jacquard. Whew, my husband just scared me so bad. All right. I learned the ladder back jacquard technique, or jacquard ladder back. I always say it wrong. It's just a neat way to carry your yarn when you're working color work that I had never done before. My quickest knit this year was a pair of baby socks that I started and finished in 3 days. They're very tiny, so. And then contrasted with my longest knit, which kind of counts. It was my camisole number 5 that I finished in 270 days because I had to go back and remake the collar, the neckline area, and waited a long time to do that. So it was hibernating. It didn't actually take me that long to knit it start to finish, but for it to be a finished object, it did. My runner-up in that category, since I feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out, was my Market Henley, which was 57 days from start to finish. Whenever I take a step back and reflect on the first half of the year, it gets me obviously thinking about the second half of the year and what I hope to accomplish. And I feel like I'm on a really good track with continuing to work through my leftovers and stash. I do think that I'll end up making more leftover items than stash. So probably just flip-flopping those goals a little bit and focusing on getting my leftovers done. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to end up working through any of my kits this year, and that's okay. I have had a lot going on in my life lately, so if I need to just table that goal and work on knitting because it brings me joy, I'm perfectly okay with that. This is a hobby for me. I do it for fun. I do it for stress relief, and I want it to stay that way. So I don't want to put any unnecessary added pressure on myself. I do have some projects coming up in the second half that I am excited about making. And right now, I know I've said this a number of times, but I am all about socks. So I'm hoping to get a lot more socks on the needles and finished throughout the rest of this summer. I'd love to know how your own knitting journey is going this year. Are you doing what you set out to do? And what's your favorite project that you have made so far this year? I would love to hear it. If you would share in the comments, that would be great. Next week, I'm looking forward to being back to a normal weekly project update. I have finished something that was a whip last time you saw me. So I can't wait to talk about that with you and all the other things that I have been working on. I had a little bit of an unexpected hiatus because I had to travel last minute. Last week, so I wasn't able to get a video out last week, but I am back, I'm here, and I am excited to chat with you again next time. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.